And we are live. Hey, everybody, it's Nerdarchist Ted from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. And we are here with staff writer Nigel, as well as a few gentlemen from Dead Gentleman Productions. So we're going to talk about all kinds of nerdy stuff, talk to these wonderful people, and figure out what they want to talk about.
All right, sounds great.
So why don't you guys introduce yourselves and what your affiliation with Dead Gentleman is? For those of you out there, they're the wonderful people behind the gamers and demon hunters, as well as other wonderful things that are out there.
Well, we'll tell you about those. So I'm Don Early. I'm for all intents and purposes, the president of Dead Gentleman Productions,
And I'm Ben Dobbins, and for all intents and purposes, I'm the president of Zombie Orpheus Entertainment, which is basically the company that has been in partnership with Dead Gentleman since 2010 to make Journey Quest, The Gamer's Hands of Fate, and a bunch of other cool shows.
Yeah. So Ben, of course, is an original Dead Gentleman. He directed the very first film we ever did, Demon Hunters. And then came on to help me do Demon Hunters Dead Camper Lake. From there, we did The Gamers with Matt Vansel, who directed that, and Dorkness Rising, and so on. So been together a long time and creating cool things that we love. And yeah, so we're excited to continue doing that.
I'm almost wondering if this is the time where we finally tell the true story about how Al Gore saved Dorkness Rising.
Well, that would sound like an amazing story, and you can't tease it and then not share it. Nigel is having some computer issues, so he might bounce in and out. We'll see what's going on there. I'm thoroughly teased. Please share story.
You got it. So we were in the process of. Dorkness Rising took us years to make.
Yeah.
We started developing it in 2003, and went out, raised the money, got ready to shoot the film. The shoot got delayed by a number of months. At the last minute, we changed a bunch of stuff up. We then shot all the game table material.
Right.
And then took another break to get ready to shoot the fantasy world.
Right.
And
we needed time to suss out all the locations and everything, and went to balance our books and discovered we'd spent most of the money on the real world shoot.
And,
wow.
And we couldn't afford to shoot the fantasy sequence.
Yeah.
So about that time, we shot a little sketch comedy piece called Campaign Ad, which was essentially a campaign ad for a politician entirely without substance. It displays the opponent in black and white and the politician in color, and uses camera tricks to make one of them look evil and one of them look positive.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, our candidate fights terrorist ninjas. We basically heard at that point that there was a new TV channel launching that became Current TV.
Which I don't know what that is now.
It got bought out by Al Jazeera America, and then Al Jazeera America stopped broadcasting.
Got it.
So
the way these things go.
So anyway, Current TV had this $15,000 competition because it was supposed to be a network with lots of content created by the users, $15,000 competition. So we submitted Campaign Ad, and it was selected by the judges in the top 10, at which point we went out to all of our fans and supporters and said, please vote for this.
Absolutely.
So basically, Current TV was, Al Gore was one of the main people behind it. So we then get notified that we'd won this competition for $15,000 during this period between the game table and the fantasy world.
Yep.
So I flew out to San Francisco, shook Al Gore's hand, got a check for $15 grand, and we were able to finish Dorkness Rising.
That is awesome. And I showed Don off air. But I have my copy of Dorkness Rising right here. I have the first one somewhere. I don't know whether a friend borrowed it and I didn't have it back, or whether the wife, was watching it in one room and forgot to put it away.
This is how we sell so many copies, by the way, is that it's usually not because new people haven't seen it. It's because you've lost your copy or lent it to a friend, and so and they're not giving it back.
You know what we should do is make an extra special edition with like a book or something, but we print the book in 3D and we make it kind of tactile and we put like a face on it or something, right? Are you getting what I'm saying? And we say if you open this book, you'll release an army of the dead, right? Yeah. Right?
Oh,
and
we have that right here.
That, of course, was my army of darkness making infinite DVD releases reference.
Yeah. Nice. So that is an awesome story. I think that is spectacular that you actually got to meet Al Gore, shake his hand, and more importantly, that we actually got to make this thing happen. Mm-hmm. So if you guys out there, haven't actually seen anything of the gamers, what's wrong with you, for one? And number two, go out there and do it. There's the stuff's available on Amazon. There's do you guys sell it directly from your site as well?
We do. So you can go to dead.market, and it is available there. It's on Blu-ray, it's on DVD, it's on digital download. But thanks to Zombie Orpheus, very recently you are able to watch it on Amazon Prime.
Nice.
And all of Journey Quest is now also on Amazon Prime.
We also just finished, now this is not yet another streaming platform because the world has enough of those, but for our Patreon supporters, we've basically launched a premium streaming platform as a bonus that has all of our movies. Right. So that's also a very easy way to both put money directly in our pockets so we can make more films and to watch everything as much as you want.
For as little as $5 a month. Yeah. So zombieorpheus.com, you can find all of our stuff there as well. So but if you want the physical merch, dead.market.
Yeah.
So speaking of Patreon, anytime we do a live chat, we always reach out to our wonderful Patreon supporters and say, hey, we're doing a chat with these guys. Do you have any questions? So we got a question that came in from Matthew Moore. It says, in the upcoming Demon Hunters SOL, will we get to see more of Tree? And also, is there a Journey Quest 4 in the works?
Okay, so the answer is, well, okay, so here's the thing. If I answer it, it'll be a spoiler, so I'm going to answer it. There will be an appearance of Tree, and most people who are not familiar with Demon Hunters will do a WTF. It'll be awesome. And then for Journey Quest 4.
Oh, it looks like it's my turn to speak.
Yes.
Now that I've avoided my Demon Hunter spoilers. So this Sunday at Gen Con, we are doing a DG Zoe fan symposium. We'll put it online afterward, and
I might even live cast it to see.
If you can get internet from the Westin.
Hey, I got it buried underneath that other hotel down the street. So
yeah, if we can live cast it, we will.
Yeah.
Because we have all sorts of cool Google Slides things. But anyway, we will be making an announcement. Look at all those.
That's awesome.
Oh, I saw my signature.
Yeah.
We'll be making an announcement about Journey Quest 4 and 5, assuming that all goes well between now and then on Sunday.
Right.
Yes, I did say and 5.
Among other giant announcements as well.
Yeah.
Nice. So if you guys are actually going to be at Gen Con, Nerdarchist Dave, he will actually be there as well. So I don't know whether you want to have any kind of meetups and do something in person, but I can send you in that direction as well. Sadly, I am not going. only get so much time off from work to be able to do stuff. And we actually, Nerdarchy was actually out on the West Coast, kind of in your guys' area, if I'm correct, just a couple weekends ago to do GM tips with Geek and Sundries, Satine Phoenix.
Washington.
What was that?
It said there's a little difference between Washington and California.
Well, yeah. Well, I meant on the West Coast, much closer than the other side of the country. Yeah. So
right.
We're all bombing territory for North Korea anyway. So.
So, but yeah, we were out on the West Coast then, not exactly your area, but closer to. We were doing a GM tips with Satine Phoenix at Geek and Sundry. It was a lot of fun, but I had to take the time off from work to do that as opposed to doing Gen Con.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we will be there. We're at booth 100, which is right behind Paizo in the corner. It's hard to miss us, so come on by and we'd love to see you.
Are you guys I imagine you're gonna have merch and stuff there for sale, or are you just showing?
Oh yeah,
yeah. We're doing all the things. We'll have game demos there.
Yep.
I guess it's safe now to say that we're also going to be hosting at our booth Mercedes Lackey and Larry Dixon.
Mm-hmm. Valdemar fame.
Yep. Because Larry is a co-writer on the Gamers film that is premiering at Gen Con.
That's right.
Nice. So
yeah,
there's
a lot of new stuff coming out this year at Gen Con. We have, I think, something like 35 to 40 role-playing game sessions of this new book, which I'll talk about in a little bit later, but the new Demon Hunters role-playing game. Sold out on like the first day, basically, which I was absolutely dumbfounded that happened. And then more new stuff. We're gonna, obviously, we just mentioned what you got there.
I have all kinds of cool things.
Oh yeah,
Ben looks excited.
Nice.
So we're going to be premiering the Gamers the series.
We will have Bardic immunity badges from Journey Quest. They're metal, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
And we will have a very limited number of official Zoe and Dead Gentleman red cards that you can use to call us if we pun and make us have to leave set or an event or whatever else. This is the most powerful thing we have in our universe, and they're now metal and printed and beautiful.
That's right.
Nice.
If you have not spent the time watching what they end up having happen with the red cards, you really need to check it out. It's amazing. It's awesome, especially when they get pulled on Christian or Nathan. They're hilarious.
Yeah. Of course, we've got Gamers Live, which is a giant, improv event that we do every year.
And that's happening twice.
Twice now.
So Friday evening, we have Gamers Live at 7.
What's the title of that one?
I don't know, because we're doing 2 of them.
Right.
And then at 9 o'clock, we're hosting a Gamers Live after party.
Right.
Then Saturday at noon, we're doing a totally different Gamers Live, and we're going to have, because it's Gen Con 50, we're bringing in a number of celebrity guests who will be making appearances.
It'll be lots of fun. Journey Quest Season 3 will be shown.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Saturday is at 3 p.m. will be The Gamers, The Shadow Menace, the premiere. If you love any of the Gamers films, we brought back the cast of the original film that we shot back in year 2000. Some of them hadn't acted in 15 years.
Yeah. Wow. And they pulled it out.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's amazing.
They did such an amazing job, and I think it just tells you how much life experience actually does add to your ability to act when the time arises. So,
I also have chat noting to say, don't forget Strollers.
Oh yeah.
Strollers is our new shared cinematic universe that we're in the process of launching, where we basically say it's an invitation for anyone around the world to come in and tell a canon part of an interlocking story. So we've already shot a pilot in Seattle, and then companion pieces in Ireland and Mongolia.
Wow.
So,
but So tell them about, like, what is Strollers in a nutshell, though?
Sure.
What is that? What is that universe?
So what we wanted was, you know, we've had people wanting to make films based on our works forever, and budget can be a limitation and location can be a limitation. So we said, let's design a world with fantasy and science fiction and horror and all of these things that we love, set it in the modern day, make it an alternate history, and basically say, you can tell a story exactly where you are. Find the magic in your own backyard, if you will, and tie it into the interwoven kind of meta story that we've been creating. So we have filmmakers in Australia and Tajikistan and Russia and Israel and Germany and the UK and, of course, the US and Canada all kind of lining up to say, we can't wait to tell stories in this world. So it's basically like saying, what would happen if the Star Wars extended universe went open source?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Kind of sounds like Dungeons and Dragons meets Pokemon Go, if you will.
It's a good
Now
way
it
to put it.
kind of works.
Yeah.
So are you?
In some ways, it's a lot like X-Men,
Yeah. Yeah.
where
I
you
can see
have
that.
magic exists, it's highly regulated, and the people who don't register end up on the run.
Right.
So are you looking to have people record videos or write stories? Both?
It's utterly wide open, and the big thing that we're doing, and we've done this with Demon Hunters now as well.
Mhm.
So our works have been released under a Creative Commons license for years, and we are now moving to a more broad Creative Commons license where we're basically going to say, you know what, if you make something cool, go ahead and sell it. We're allowing commercial derivatives based on our works.
So Creative Commons, you can sample a scene, you can show the film, you can change it up and not even ask our permission, and you can just do that and share it, as long as you give us the right credit for it and that sort of thing.
So far, both Demon Hunters and Strollers have opened up to this extent. So if you want to write a novel, if you want to make a T-shirt, if you want to make fan art, you can just release it for free and share it, or you can say, you know what, I put a lot of time and effort into this, I'll sell it. And so we have fans and professionals and fans who are professionals kind of around the world lining up to come play.
We've already had a fan of Demon Hunters, and specifically the role-playing game, write his own module for it. Before Demon Hunters SOL has even been released, that's the project that we went ahead and launched this with. And he's like, hey, is this cool? I'm like, hell yeah, that's cool. And I think it's even available for free at DriveThruRPG now.
Nice.
So, that's just kind of what we're talking about, is that we think that there is this great open world that you can, if you're so inspired, let's not hold you back. We want to see what you can do. And like you said, it doesn't have to be film. It can be, podcast. It can be a graphic novel. It can be a short story. It can be a novel. Whatever form you want to do it in.
And the advantage of the worlds of both Demon Hunters and Strollers is, like Demon Hunters, you can shoot a horror film in your basement, and it can be totally legit and terrifying, or hilarious and in all the good ways, or hilarious in the bad ways, and we'll laugh at you.
I'm very interested in seeing how it'll drop little things into the world, such as situations like this, where it becomes kind of a cultural wave, tend to sneak their way into other products. Like you might see a reference to it in another movie or in the background of a show where somebody in the cast is a fan or something like that. Things like that happen all the time, little Easter eggs. I'd love to see what happens there, like cruising down through Seattle and see some graffiti that is related to this or something. Not saying I advocate for graffiti, but
the thing is, I have seen Strollers graffiti in Seattle already.
That's the reason I seen it. I work near the stadium, so yeah, I've seen it too. Well, not that, but I've seen a Demon Hunters graffiti the other day over on 2nd and King.
What?
Yeah. It was there on Friday, so.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy.
By the way, if anybody out there is seeing graffiti of our stuff, snap a photo and send it to us. We want to see that shit.
Unless you're the person making it, in which
Right.
case don't incriminate yourself.
Yeah, don't do that.
The form, otherwise I would have, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, share that stuff on social media. You know, it's what you do these days. Instagram,
This goes
Facebook,
back to-
Snapchat.
This goes back to the thing that we, like our values from the very beginning, which is my laptop is needing power, so I have to figure that
I'll
out.
deal with that while you talk about values.
Yeah, so.
We lost your faces.
I'm not sure.
There you go.
So early on, we had the gamers, right? And we had Demon Hunters. Basically, the gamers, though, was the big, very popular one. And that, this was back in the early 2000s where we had file sharing piracy and all that stuff. That was just kind of beginning. And we were getting some fans reporting to us that they were finding the movie on BitTorrent, and aren't we upset and that sort of thing? And our response was, hell no! Steal that movie, share it, get it out there. For forever, our value has been steal our movie and watch it, because the more people know about us, the better. And then if you like it enough, at least come back and buy it from us,
or help fund the next one.
right?
Because Zoe's whole strategy has basically been, it's all online, it's for free,
Yeah.
enjoy it, and you're empowered to keep the story going by pledging at the next campaign or pledging to the Patreon. And if enough people want to do that, it'll happen. If they don't, it'll be canceled.
Right.
So it really puts the power into the fans' hands.
So, staff writer Doug in the comments is saying, that would make a great DVD jacket quote. Steal this movie.
Now, I will say this with a caveat. If you're a distributor, you are not allowed to steal our movie. Because that's a whole nother nightmare story I won't get into. But don't get into a place where you owe us money.
Yeah, I remember you guys. The first time I ran into DG was actually over at Comic Book Inc. in Tacoma, Washington.
Oh
And I remember you guys were setting up. Actually, I had randomly wandered over there. I forgot why, but you guys were setting up to do the premiere for the Gamers 2 Dorkness Rising, like alpha premiere type thing over there. And helped you carry everything in, and then I wandered over. I thought I was just being a nice guy, and then John Munn, the proprietor of Comic Book Inc., I asked him, so what's going on with this? And he's like, oh, it's the Gamers, and he explained what it is, and pulled out his little phone and showed me a few videos, and I'm like, okay, I'm sticking around for this. I'm going to buy a copy. I only have a copy of one. And so he takes the copy of the original right here, and he bangs it against the desk, and he's like, oh, damaged goods. He hands it to me. And I'm like, okay.
Incidentally, John Munn is in the next Gamers, in the Gamers: The Shadow Menace. So
Acting.
yeah, look for him in there.
And he was a disembodied head in Journey Quest.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have any favorite moments from the production side of things? So that's something that either didn't make it on screen or that almost didn't make it on screen. Any cool background stuff?
Sure. I mean, we've got all kinds of stories from various productions.
Yeah, it's like, where do we start?
I know.
I instantly went to the Journey Quest 2 shoot, which was total hell.
Yeah.
None of it was a favorite moment until we survived.
Yeah. It's one of those where you're going through the adventure, and you said when you went to Mongolia, that there are these moments where you're on the adventure and it's very uncomfortable, and not pleasant or fun, but then when you're done with it, reflectively, you're going, God, that was awesome.
Or even just like the Mongolia example. So we're shooting a movie in Mongolia last March for Strollers, and I find myself in this 15-passenger van that just all of a sudden we veer off the highway, and then suddenly we're just going over the steppe, over mountains, hills, like down through riverbeds and out again. There's no road. We're out in the middle of absolute nowhere. It's a 15-passenger van, so it's bumping and bouncing, and we're getting car sick, and we're wondering if it's going to tip over or bottom out in a stream bed. And I was getting really pissed off, and then I suddenly had this realization. I'm in frickin' Mongolia having an adventure. It doesn't get better than this. And it changed my whole attitude. It's like, how privileged are we to get to do this?
It's pretty awesome. In Dorkness Rising, we had so many moments. I had borrowed a generator from my boss at the time, and the crew went to soundproof it, and it caught fire.
Oh my!
Not just a small fire.
No, we're talking 15, 20-foot pillar of flame.
Whoa!
And
That's
we are all scared to death that this thing's gonna blow like the movies and everything. And I am pale. All the blood has drawn out of my face. This is my boss's equipment, and I got to know what insurance is for, basically.
Your boss that has nothing to do with Dead Gentleman?
Correct. Yeah,
Ooh,
I work at a warehouse, and I'm like, hey, we need a generator. And he's like, you can borrow mine.
Wow.
That might be the same story mentioned in Matt Vansel's interview with me, which is on the Dorkness site. And he talks about that being like one of the biggest, most exciting moments and everything.
It was pretty terrifying. I think everybody else thought it was pretty cool, but I was terrified.
Well, you were coming at it from a different vantage point, so
a little bit, yeah. But the other thing that was fascinating is, so the fire truck comes and they put it out, and then they leave, and that's it. Like, we didn't get a bill. There was like, the show must go on. We kept shooting.
Wow.
There's another one.
Wait. We're not done with that story yet. So,
okay.
So what transpires between you and the boss? Like, do you guys get a new generator? Does that one get fixed?
Yes. So I mentioned that I get to find out what the insurance, how that works. So I filed a claim, found out the exact model and everything of the generator, and a couple of weeks later, he has a brand new generator.
Okay.
And it worked out fine.
So there was no loss of limb or loss of job for you?
Nope. That would come later.
I thought we weren't supposed to talk about your fake leg.
Yeah. So, but another one, not quite as dramatic, but it's just one of those where where the whole cast and crew gets the giggles. It's just that moment when you're all on so much caffeine and lack of sleep and hard work and long days and trying to do anything you can to keep it fun.
I am familiar with that.
Yeah, and there is one time in the game room sequence, and they were just shooting, and Christian, who plays Gary, takes this skull, the
dice bag,
crystal cast dice bag, the skull dice bag, and he puts it on his head, and we just all start busting up because it's terrible in telling it because it's not as funny as it was at the time, but we have take after take after take of him using this head, and as he moves and stuff, we are dying. We are just losing ourselves, and and then you go back and watch the the outtakes from that, and you're like, why was that funny?
So we have
experiences. I mean, on Demon Hunter's Dead Camper Lake, Matt Shumkus nearly gets frostbite. You know, it just goes on.
So TrueMate weighs in and says he's got two favorite quotes from gamers and Dorkness Rising. It's like, you're gonna backstab him with a ballista, and the hide behind the mound of dead bards.
Mm-hmm. Both of which are on T-shirts now at dead.market.
And Con.
All right.
Shameless plug.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Shameless plug away. This is the spot for it.
If people are interested in those kind of memes and whatnot, you can plug into the DG Facebook and everything. And it's been happening pretty often where they'll be running something and be like, here, quote this image or whatever, and or like things like that. And it's just generating a lot of hilarious content that people are participating in. So, yeah.
So I will actually say I don't know whether it's just me or whether other users are having this. I wanted to kind of check up on you guys before we started this thing. Went to the website. I tried to sign up for the newsletter, and it spit out an error saying you're not allowed to do this right now.
I will take a look at that as soon as we get off. Should be able to get it fixed. Now, is that the DG site or the Zombie Orpheus site?
The DJ.
Okay. You'll take a look at that.
I think I know exactly the problem. We had to migrate servers recently, and I think the Contact Us form does not work either. Which is not helpful.
But if you're desperate, you can get onto the same mailing list at zombieorpheus.com.
Correct.
Right now.
All right. Well, I'll do both.
Dead.market has a newsletter too, and it's the same thing.
Yeah. We'll just keep emailing you.
So one of the things that we tend to do, and I don't know what things are going to be like because we're doing a live chat at a different time than normal, but usually about midpoint, we ask for the users to sound off. It allows us to know where they're watching and listening in from, and they go to town. So guys out there in the chat, feel free to sound off and let me know where you're listening from. We have a little bit less than what our normal would be. So while those people begin to sound off, we'll continue with the chat. So I question with all of the wonderful stuff that you guys currently have in the works, do you actually have time to roll funny shaped dice and pretend to be somebody else as well, or what do you do?
In fact, directly after this podcast, we are playing 5th edition.
Okay.
So yes.
This will be the first time outside of Gen Con that I have been able to game in 5 years.
Wow.
Because I spent all my time running a company and making these movies. So I got to drop a character today. It was amazing.
Well, I am actually I'm in progress of helping my 9-year-old son make his first D&D character. Nice. So I'm aware of that excitement.
Yeah,
I've actually introduced my entire family to No Thank You Evil as well. Oh, yeah. So my daughter was 4 when she started that game. So we've only played a couple of sessions, but it's pretty amazing. But not gaming in 5 years, like part of me hurts hearing that. So
makes me curious. What's the character he's going to pop his cherry on that one?
Well, that was going to be my next thing. What are you running tonight when this is over?
Well, normally I would play a half-elven bard, but I'm going to branch out tonight and play an elven bard.
Oh, that's in 5th edition you really can play anything you want, but making that veer away from the half elf, it's not not a strong choice. All right, so let's.
I've read the 5th edition books, and they've introduced so many. I mean, I love it, but I just don't know all of the new playable races by heart yet. So, for a last-minute gaming session, going with what I know just lets me jump in and have fun and not be trying to keep track of a ton of new rules.
And it'll be great. And
absolutely.
I run my games pretty rules light anyway. What do you want to do? Okay, here's how you do that.
Right.
Yeah, so I run this 5th edition campaign every other Monday. We are doing the Temple of Elemental Evil adventure path, which has been really awesome.
You didn't actually tell me that before I drew up a bard.
All right, so real quick, we have Doug in Cleveland, Fragginator in Granite Falls. We got Jay Steele in SLC Utah. Nerdarchy in Cecil County in the house. We got Toronto. We got South Carolina. We got Lynn, Massachusetts. We got a comment that you guys make a great product. I'm guessing they mean you, not us. We got Jeffrey in Knoxville, Tennessee. We got San Nicolas, Delos Garcia, Mexico. We got Wales, UK, currently 2 a.m. and got to go to sleep soon. And, of course, the chat jumps. We got Tukwila, Washington, and that looks like we all for those who actually decided to weigh in. So not too much that's outside of the U.S., but we usually get people in Canada and Denmark, Sweden, Kuwait, Australia. So like we have fans that are all over the place, and it's always fun to just see how far the word is spreading. So
nice.
Yeah, I actually request to download and then send over a bunch of the videos and whatnot to my buddy who's deploying. So yeah, that should be fun.
I'd also like to respond to chat that I completely agree about Princes of the Apocalypse. That's an awesome campaign.
Mm-hmm. I've been really enjoying it. We haven't even gotten to the meat of the adventure yet. We're still at 2nd level. We're playing all the pre-stuff, but it's amazing just even doing that, how well developed it is, how fun it is.
Oh, and that's the one that really allows you to play in a non-linear way, correct?
Oh, it's very sandbox.
Yeah, which I love.
Yeah, it's super sandbox.
And I feel like the team behind it did an extraordinary job of building those connections to allow a great deal of free will and not having to railroad the players.
Right, exactly.
So do you guys prefer to run pre-printed, or do you do homebrew as well?
Well, it's interesting. For me, I mostly prefer pre-printed if I'm running D&D because I don't have time to invent my own homebrew anymore.
So I actually really prefer homebrew, but so my secret is so the Strollers development process, we went in, did a ton of development, wrote a first draft of the script, and then I grabbed a bunch of players and we spent a year gaming through the script as a campaign.
Wow.
And that was absolutely amazing because the moment you have every single character in a script kind of acting with free will within the scenes that you've given them and fully aware, it completely takes you away from a situation where you can have one motivated character and everyone around them is just there to serve the plot. And it brings so much depth and richness and understanding to the process. The year we spent gaming through a screenplay to develop it further was some of the most fun I've ever had at the table.
In fact, that's probably what we need to do with Demon Hunters.
Right?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Since we have a freaking book where to do that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to homebrew, I do run homebrew on this. We don't really have any pre-printed stuff. In fact, I'm developing that right now. But in this book, this is Demon Hunters, A Comedy of Terrors. You can get it at your local game shop. If they don't have it, tell them to order it. In that, I specifically got our game designers together and we created a system where, again, for people like me who I don't have time to build, 12 hours, to put 12 hours into building a 3rd level character. I don't have time to invent everything. I work, I have kids, we're family, blah, blah, blah. So I needed a structure and a way to be able to throw together fascinating, fun, dynamic adventure in a very short amount of time. And we have done that, and it is a great system, and it works for, like, I mean, you can sub out some of the tables with entries for your own setting, and it will work.
Well, I'll tell you a secret. When we were developing the story for the new Gamers film, I started by flipping through this book and using the random tables and elements that they put together for this. I don't know if I ever told you that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, I totally used Demon Hunters to
that's awesome,
to get the story seed for the episode.
Yeah, that's awesome. and what we what I put into this was the structure that we use in crafting our films and in crafting a story. So there is essentially a map for you as a DM or a GM to be able to go, okay, if you're lost, if the players have gone on a tangent, you don't really know what to do next, you can pull this up and go, okay, where exactly do I think we are on this? Here's the next thing I can do to drive it, you know, and keep it moving.
Okay.
And so I found our storytelling techniques very helpful in gaming.
So is that also available on your website?
It is.
All right.
Dead.market.
I have a quick.
And it's also on Drive-Thru RPG
too. My gaming group is very like character interaction driven, where most of the role play talking between people is what defines and determines where we're going to go, like which dungeon we're going to go into, etc.
Right.
It's a 5e game. So how would your game there work for a character driven storyline as opposed to something with an arc and everything? Story arc.
Well, so here's the way I go about it, and that is you have to understand the world. And if your characters don't participate, what's going to happen? If your players do not intervene, what story, how will events occur? And that's the first part of this system, is to figure out who the key players are, who are the main adversaries, and you can kind of, you know, tailor that as you go, and you build through and understand what everybody's doing. And so when the players come in and start messing all of that up, you already know how they're going to react, and you know how they're going to adapt, and how, you know, plans will change and things will happen because of their interaction or their inaction, and it will keep it going. And then if they go in a completely different, you know, place, you can quickly get a few ideas of where you need to go and what you need to flesh out, and then between sessions you can do the same thing, you know.
And it keeps it dramatic.
It does not feel invented.
Yeah, because you want strong motivations, and you want those motivations and those goals to be in conflict. And as long as you kind of understand what the conflict is within each of those scenes, that gives you, no matter how the scene resolves, you know that it's going to be a victory for one person and a loss for another, and that victory and loss then spills over to the next scene, and that maintains your kind of cinematic pacing.
I actually build on that in the next adventure supplement, which will be coming out probably in September or so for Demon Hunters, where we tie into your character's weaknesses and strengths, and we look at a scene and go, okay, how is this person's weakness going to play out in this scene? You know, is there something that I can exploit in there, you know, that will make this a more interesting, you know, raising the stakes a bit and more personal for each player, you know?
So with that, we actually have a very apropos question. It says, with your experience as filmmakers, do you find your games have a more cinematic flair? And that's from staff writer Doug.
Oh yeah, I would think so. I mean, that's the feedback I always get, is that it's definitely very cinematic. I've always had a hard time running, you know, dungeon crawl kind of, you know, hack and slash stuff. It's fun, you know, but I think that we, you know, our best campaigns have always been very, you know, cinematic in that way. Ben ran a fantastic Firefly Serenity campaign. That was amazing.
That was so much fun. I think that was the last non-work one I've done.
Yeah, I've actually got the I've got the Firefly role-playing game, and it's sitting on the shelf, and I've yet to be able to convince anyone to give it a shot or to run it for me. So it just sits there longingly waiting.
I've been having that exact same problem on the exact same game. Can't find anyone.
I made a character. I'm ready to go. You know,
where's my brown coats?
Okay.
So going back to that question, what do you feel like? What extra steps do you do to get that more cinematic flair?
Well, I think that you have to think about for yourself, what does this look like? You know, how is this going to play out dramatically? But, you know, honestly, some of the best tools you can do is turn around and ask your players, what does this look like? And,
you know, I think to add onto that a little bit. So right now, so we're dueling live streams. We do a Monday night show that began 18 minutes ago on Twitch, which is basically it's called Masters of the Metaverse, and it's yet another show with people sitting at a table gaming. But kind of the question that Chris Odie and Christian Doyle asked themselves as they were developing it was, what can we do to make the experience of watching people game feel cinematic?
Okay.
And so there was some very intentional strategic thought about how to kind of bring the style of storytelling and the style of humor that we've been doing for so many years specifically to that. Number one, and this is going to sound awful, but number one was casting improv actors who are also gamers. Because trained actors and trained storytellers really kind of develop an intuitive sense in the morning of where the drama is and where to take it. And you can absolutely teach your group how to get there, and kind of when you give them the value of structure. So that's part of it. The other part of it is, frankly, they sit, like, there are always surprises for the players, but they sit down before the game and they talk about, here's the kind of dramatic arc that we want for this episode. So there's a real value in kind of structural spoilers that allow the players to say, okay, we're going to be going toward a low moment at this point, or there's going to be a turnaround, and that allows them to kind of use dramatic irony, to use foreshadowing, to use all of these elements, even though they might not know what's coming, to enrich the story. And I think it seems counterintuitive to spoil things, but the result is that you can so intentionally set up story elements that pay off in later episodes, and not even necessarily as the GM, but as the players, because you're saying to yourselves and saying as a group, what do we want out of the story?
So I do have to throw out a correction. That's not staff writer Doug. It's web editor-in-chief Doug. My apologies.
Yeah, I think that works great for that. And I think just for the just regular, you know, at home, no audience kind of thing, just trying to figure, you know, things out and get it to play. It does kind of go into your casting situation. You got to look at who are your players and what are going to be their strengths. You know, is a person very outgoing? Is another person very shy? And will they have a tendency to get bowled over by the outgoing people? You know, give each player a chance to have their moment in the limelight and to be able to be in control of the narrative in that moment, to do something spectacular.
So I also run live action, massively multiplayer murder mysteries.
Oh, nice.
Epic.
Like I wrote one and staged it for 80 players, and every person was a main character.
Wow. I wouldn't even have a way to start something that big.
Yeah.
Now
Daunting.
Yeah,
I've played in games.
The reason I bring that up is we very intentionally, I have a team I work with for that, we very intentionally developed a kind of detailed questionnaire or survey for all the players beforehand, and intentionally matched players up with characters who fit their play style, who fit their personalities, who fit what would be fun for them. And so, like, when you're talking about bringing to the game table, like genuinely looking at what kinds of roles are going to fit well together, and how can you tailor to the style of each of the players who you're bringing in.
That's right.
Yeah, the table that, I mean, I've played with a large assortment. I've been down to running with 2 players and a GM, and I've had as many as 13 players at a table. At one point in time, the current game that I'm running in 5th edition, I had as many as 9 regular players, and it has since dropped down to 7. And I do struggle at times with that group because there is such a big divergence that there's some people who are very much into combat, other people are very much into the role playing, and to kind of figure out like what is the proper balance of stuff for that specific group, it can get challenging. So doing it with 80 people for hours, I'm impressed.
It's a different dynamic though, and your situation, like my Demon Hunters group is 8 to 9 players regularly, and I struggle like giving everybody enough, and it's always a better session when it's 5 or 6 people. I just don't know the secret sauce to running amazing large groups.
Yeah, that's entirely beyond me, and I've got over 2 decades of experience in DMing, and it's like, how? I mean, the logistics of it. Like, are you using a chat server or what?
Right.
It's geometry. Frankly.
I picture you like with all the players in an orchestra pit, and you're just doing it.
Well, I mean, it almost kind of has to be like. Because, I mean, isn't a murder mystery, isn't there, like, it's not like a scripted thing where everyone's memorizing lines. It's you just, you go and you have to figure things out. So,
but it's still structured. And, like, regardless of whether it was a murder mystery or a really large gaming group or whatever else, essentially like you said, 4 to 5 is kind of ideal. You break down your groups into factions. So, like, I'll often do, like for live events, I'll do a faction of 8, and I'll develop relationships, detailed relationships among those characters. And you make the first part of the game kind of self-contained within each of these factions, and then you set the factions against each other. So it gives you manageable interpersonal drama while setting up however many other groups with whom you either are going to work together or in opposition to. And we've done that with, like, at Gen Con, we've run the Mask of Death campaign several times, and one of the big tricks we do is we run it with 2 different groups. I'm going to spoil this horribly. We run it with 2 different groups in the same room, and each group is playing the characters from Dorkness Rising. And then we wait for the moment that Luster rolls a wild magic effect called Evil Twin, at which point we're then able to combine those 2 groups, set the evil twins against each other, not tell them which one is the evil twin, and then split it out again into whatever complete randomness. And so essentially mix and pull it apart again. It's like there's always a way that you can condense to a manageable amount and then allow interaction that's rewarding.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty crazy and pretty epic. Has there been any, like, mass chaos that wasn't able to be controlled doing something like that? Or, wow.
It just kind of works, and again, it's a lot of that careful planning of who's going to fit what and is it going to work out. You know, as you know, I played in the murder mystery that he created, and it was exactly how he described. I mean, you know, my character had a small group of people that I would naturally interact with because of just how, you know, the information I was given. That makes a lot of sense. There's stuff going on around the house and around the yard that I had no idea who they are or what they were doing, but it all connected into this culmination as things went on. And I think that, again, that goes along the lines of this idea of, you know, as the DM or whatever, knowing the major beats of, you know, what's going to happen, even if no one intervenes, so that, you know, you can keep things moving along.
So how intense was, you know, what was like the questionnaire that they were filling out? Because I mean, that sounds like in order to get the level of information.
No, you can get like 6 to 8 questions is enough.
Yeah.
Because you're writing, you know, kind of from a set number of tropes.
Right.
This person's an introvert and needs help. This person's an extrovert. This person likes puzzles. This person likes conversations.
Right.
Is just enough to kind of get a sense of what the gameplay style is and then adapt it to them.
Okay. So we're
frankly,
getting
I see a lot of newer role-playing games where that are very story-based, and in their how to run this game section is very much like that. In fact, I don't know if you guys have checked out Dread.
I was actually, you know, speaking to some of the people involved with Dread just a couple weeks ago. I have not watched it yet, but it is definitely on my to-do list.
It looks incredible, and it's exactly that. There's like this questionnaire that you invent for each player to kind of come up with their character. I think it's a very good system for that.
So we're almost out of time. Is there anything else that you want to get out there? Do you want to hit your plugs again? What do you
Sure.
What do you want to send us off with?
I have 2 plugs for you, and then I'll let Don hit Gen Con and his plugs. Plug number 1, if you love what we do, the very best way to support us is to become a Patreon member. We have new exclusive monthly comics from Aaron Williams. We have our streaming library. We have participation in the world wikis and the forums and merch discounts. And it literally, if it weren't for the Patreon, we would not still exist. That is how we keep going. And we have awesome benefits and bonuses. The next thing I would say is if you're enjoying live streaming, gaming, when you're finished here and you log off, if you head over to twitch.tv/hyperrpg, you're going to see Christian Doyle and Chris Odie and a bunch of our cast members. They're actually starting up a new short story arc right now. We're right about at the point where they should be done with the introduction, so it is a perfect time to jump in and kind of see in practice the theory that we've been talking about today. That's twitch.tv/hyperrpg. And our Patreon is at patreon.com/zombieorpheus.
And I don't have much more to plug as far as Gen Con goes, but I love this game so hard, and I think you will too. And so demonhuntersrpg.com will give you lots of information. You can buy it at dead.market, paizo.com, drive-through-RPG, or tell your game shop to order it.
Yeah, I'll definitely be telling Terra Crooks to pick it up if I don't see it down there. I'll go down there tomorrow to see if they've got it.
And we have a standing rule that if you buy a hard copy of the book in a brick-and-mortar store, you get a free PDF of it as well. So it's called Bits and Mortar. The guy Fred Hicks is a big starter of that. The guy who invented Faith and Evil Hat and all that stuff. So,
all right. Well,
that's my plug.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us. Thanks for all of you fans out there joining us for an extra live chat today at our not normal time. So I'm gonna try and get these guys to actually send me these links, and I will drop them in the description down below because I screwed up and didn't get it there ahead of time. So I apologize to everyone for all of that. Our live chats will continue, at its normal time throughout the week. They're just going to be without Dave because he's on his way to Gen Con. So until next time, guys, stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy.